everyone. Today I'm going to add my opinion to the coconut oil controversy, and I want to address one important piece of this that is not being talked about, and that is, what role does cholesterol play in the body? Why do we even have cholesterol in our body? And that's going to actually make things a lot more clear to you. Before I get into that, there's one piece that I'm going to say about all of this scientific research that's coming out through the American Heart Association and other organizations. And that is that when you have a lot of different scientific research on one topic, like cholesterol and its effect on heart disease, and you're seeing each study showing different results and a lot of conflicting opinions, it's because of two things. One, there are going to be other variables that are affecting heart disease other than just cholesterol. So when you look at cholesterol's effect on heart disease, and every study comes out with a different answer, it's because there are other factors affecting heart disease other than cholesterol, and we're not seeing the whole picture yet. The second piece of this is that the research is it's very costly, and so it's got to be funded by something and someone. Unfortunately, there are no laws against companies funding research, companies who are affected financially by the outcome of that research funding that research. So if you have a company that is going to be financially affected by what that scientific study ends up saying, then that company is allowed to fund that research, and that research is made public, and sometimes it's made public by organizations like the American Heart Association, which are apparently still well respected in the United States, even though when you look at who sponsors their studies, you see a lot of companies that are financially affected by the sales of certain oils and fats. So we know that a lot of studies are imperfect because of these two reasons, okay? And I'm going to link to some of the web pages online where you can look at various studies that have been done and their outcomes, and you can see the variations in the outcomes, and then you can also see the sponsors. So that's a very interesting thing to look at when you see research come out through organizations like the American Heart Association. But back to the anatomy of cholesterol in the human body. Why do we have cholesterol in the human body in the first place? What role does it play? And I'm going to throw a picture up on the screen really quickly. We have a picture here of a cell membrane. This is a human cell membrane. Now, the membrane is the outer layer of the cell. It contains the cell, and there's a lipid bilayer composed of fats and a watery, protein-rich interior. And this makes the cell very flexible, the cell membrane flexible. And the cell membrane, the lipid bilayer, is composed of different kinds of fats, one of which is cholesterol. So you'll see there, cholesterol is a very important building block in the cell membrane. And you have a lot of cholesterol molecules there. Multiply that times the number of cells you have in your body, and you end up with a lot of cholesterol in the body, a lot of cholesterol making up the structure of the human body. So, thank you for that photo from Penn State. And we have a reason for cholesterol in the body, okay? There's a need for it. And if you're not getting it through your diet, then your body is going to make cholesterol. Your body's going to make it from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So regardless of whether you eat cholesterol or not, your body's going to make it. It needs it for the structural integrity of the body. And so then we have to ask, well, what about all this talk of HDL cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, plaque, artery buildup, and heart disease? Well, you have you have two different kinds of cholesterol, and probably more that we haven't discovered yet, but you have HDL cholesterol and LDL cholesterol that circulates in the body. And oftentimes your doctor will say, you need to have lower LDL and higher HDL cholesterol. Well, what they're finding now is that it's actually not just the quantity of these cholesterols, but the quality of them. So the particle size and shape and quantity. And what's more exciting is that we have tests now that can look at this. So you see, when you have LDL cholesterol that is smaller, misshapen, that's more indicative of a risk of heart disease than the number of LDL cholesterol molecules. So we have this new information coming out because, of course, medicine is always progressing, and I like to see that doctors like Mark Hyman are talking about this and educating the public, because there's so much changing so rapidly in the world of medical testing, and there's so many advances made that it's very exciting that we can look at this detailed report of our cholesterol in our body. So to make it simple in a topic that's very complicated because we don't have all the answers yet, the simple recap of what they're looking at today is not just the quantity of HDL and the quantity of LDL cholesterol, but they're looking at the quality of it. And so if you have high LDL, which is lousy cholesterol, I like to remember it because LDL is lousy cholesterol, HDL is healthy cholesterol. The L and the H help me remember. So just because you might have elevated lousy cholesterol doesn't mean that you're going to be at higher risk for heart disease. It also has to do with the quality. And so you do see that saturated fat in the diet can sometimes raise LDL, but it can also improve the quality of those molecules. What they have found that actually makes LDL cholesterol indicative of heart disease is when it's caused to be a small particle size damaged LDL cholesterol by refined carbohydrates and sugar in the diet. So the USDA now recommends for a heart-healthy diet that you have refined sugar and carbohydrates less than 10% of your daily calorie intake. And what's interesting is they recommend that fats, including saturated fats, make up 35% of your daily caloric intake. So you see that they're saying less refined carbohydrates and higher fats, including saturated fats, are what is going to be a healthier diet for the heart. So the USDA has got one thing somewhat right there, and hopefully that is a simple answer for you guys to a very complex issue. I'm going to link to an article written by Dr. Mark Hyman about that LDL quality as opposed to quantity being an important factor in your risk for heart disease. I'm also going to link to the USDA recommendations on the refined carbohydrates and the fats in your diet. And all of this is in the blog post, so feel free to look at that below. And I hope that that's helpful. I know that there's so much more I want to say about this, but I don't want to open another can of worms here and have to go on forever. This is a very complicated issue, remember that, and that the science on this particular topic is still in infancy, and we are discovering new things every day. So what I like to do when I am feeling confused about the science out there is I look towards the human anatomy, what makes sense to me, and history as to what humans ate long ago that kept them healthy and thriving. Coconut oil is a very popular staple in traditional diets, and there's actually some research done on populations these days that have high coconut oil in their daily diet, and they have very low risk of heart disease. So we know that coconut oil does not equal heart disease. There are a lot of other variables that go into creating heart disease. So that is my take on it, and I hope that it's helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. I know that there's going to be some questions, so please go ahead and start the discussion, and we'll try to answer everything that we can. Okay, Have a wonderful day and keep taking back your health.